It's 9 o'clock. It's the 8th day of September 2022. It's 70 degrees and pale brown here at Site B in heat wave blasted sunny Southern California. And it is I, the OGGM. And in case you blinked, guess what's in the news again? Space monkeys. Yes, apparently Wizards of the Coast were not happy with going into D&D Beyond and changing the paragraphs regarding the space monkeys, or posting an official apology that they didn't need to post regarding the space monkeys. But now we have discovered that they have gone into D&D Beyond and removed the artwork for the space monkeys as well. And the questionable and insulting artwork that is getting them so much trouble is this one. A space monkey holding a lute with this hat. Why is the picture of this space monkey holding a lute with this hat? This hat is historically accurate. There were individuals who wore this hat. Lutes are historically accurate. There were individuals who played lutes. Blue pants and a brown leatherish shirt, also historically accurate for the time period. So why did it get in trouble? Because apparently this might have some relation to minstrel show art and minstrel show portrayals. Now, if you don't know what a minstrel show is, look it up, because I'm not going to explain it to you, because one, that would take too long. Two, you'd just accuse me of being racist. You're going to accuse me of being racist anyway. So they went in and they changed the art. I haven't seen the new art yet, but they changed it. They removed it. Any offensive thing regarding the Hadozee, the space monkeys, has been removed. Now, mind you, there are plenty, between the 3 books that came out in the Spelljammer thing, there are plenty of other things that could be considered racist or problematic. I mean, you know, the hippos, space hippos, who could be fat shaming, or the space, Githyanki and the Gazari and the Mind Flayers. Those are all awful, horrible, and have a long history of horrible, awful, politically incorrect things. In fact, Spelljammer is full of horror and things that could be perceived as awful. But for some reason, Space Monkey is what dragged the attention, and Wizards of their Coast, in their infinite wisdom, tried to address the problem in the most immature way they could. First, they snuck into D&D Beyond and changed the documentation. So now what's online and what's in your hand are completely different. We'll get to that in a second. Then they came forward and made a half-ass apology by blaming it on their predecessors. Instead of taking any responsibility on their own, they're like, well, you know, there's a 30-year history of this, so it's Advanced Dungeons & Dragons' fault. It's not our fault. I mean, yeah, we made 3rd edition and 4th edition and supplements for 3rd edition and 4th edition, and there were probably Spelljammer-related stuff we made for 3rd edition and 4th edition, but that's not our fault. Because remember, nothing before 2014 counts, including stuff we did. So don't get mad at us because that was done by our predecessors. So we're apologizing because of the 30-year history, 40-year history of the rest of the hobby. That's not our fault. We didn't know it was in there when we bought Spelljammer. Certainly we didn't pay somebody to go through Spelljammer and make sure it was up to date, or that there were things in it that, you know, might have been considered problematic. I mean, literally we've got people making accusations of us being problematic every frickin' day. You'd think that if we're paying somebody $50,000 to be a sensitivity consultant, we would have also paid somebody else like $5 to go, hey, is there anything in here that somebody might be offended by? But no, that's not our fault. And now they've even gone one step forward and they've snuck in and they've changed the art online. Specifically on D&D Beyond. As for any other manifestation of the Spelljammer documentation since it came out, like, you know, PDFs or art that has been copied and pasted and put up, they haven't addressed that. Much less the physical copies that were supposedly sold. And I say supposedly because I have yet to see a friendly local game store that has actually sold any copies. And from what I hear, from at least 3 different sources, it's not moving. But people have bought the physical copies, because I know I've seen people online holding it, whether they paid for them or they got it for free from Wizards in exchange for doing a review. People have it, which means the problematic phrasing and pictures are still out there. They're still out there. So how will Wizards address that? Are they going to send ninjas? I can't call them ninjas. That's racial appropriation. Are they going to send agents? Is agents problematic? Probably. Are they going to send, I don't know, robots? Robots isn't problematic yet, is it? Are they going to send little Wizards of the Coast programmed Roombas into each and one of our houses that have the physical copy and sneak in through the chimney like Santa Claus and come down and be like, I'm taking this and I'm replacing it with a new one? No, if you have a physical copy with the problematic information in it, what is Wizards of the Coast going to do? Why, they're going to re-release Spelljammer with the editorial changes, and it'll be Spelljammer 3.5. This sounds familiar. And then they're going to sort of suggest that you need to buy the new copy, because if you don't buy the new copy, you'll be racist. Now, is Wizards of the Coast going to offer you anything in exchange, like a discount? Like they did with Dungeons & Dragons 3.5? Or even free exchange? Like they did with Dungeons & Dragons 3.5? No, because they didn't do that with Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. They basically just said, we're making a new copy, buy it. And people did. Because we didn't know any better. Now, hindsight being 2020, as I was one of the people who was stupid enough to buy both 3 and 3.5, I realize now that all I could have, all Wizards of the Coast should have done, could have done, would have done, is make an errata and make that available for free for anybody who wanted it. Just be like, hey, you already bought Spelljammer, here's the errata, done. Hey, you already bought Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition, here's the errata, fixing our mistakes, we'll send it to you for free, done. But no, because they realized they could make money off of it. And now, they've done it again. So if you've paid for the digital copy of Spelljammer, and the problematic artwork and paragraphing is in there, well, you should probably check to see whether they changed it or not. Or if they're going to say, well, now you got to download the new one or buy the new one because we changed it. I don't know. But I do know they changed it. And as for the physical copies, well, your physical copies got the problematic artwork in it. And you've got the problematic wording in it. How is Wizards of the Coast going to change that? And what about the accusations of fat shaming in the hippos? Or what about the accusations of pushing a right-wing agenda because there's a race that gets to use guns? Or what about the accusations of this other race is a slave race? Oh, mind flayers eat brains. When are those going to make you change something else? And then what is that going to do for the people who have the physical copy? Is it going to increase the return profit of the physical copy and its collectability, much the same way that Deities and Demigods that has the Cthulhu myth has gone up in price, as opposed to the Deities and Demigods that doesn't have the Cthulhu in it, which doesn't? And are you going to say, well, as one of the last physical things we're ever going to make, other than the upcoming Dragonlance thing, the one with the problematic content in it is problematic. And if you maintain your ownership of that, you are problematic and you're a racist. But that's okay, because we're making a new physical copy. But we're not going to actually give you any incentive. Like, if you send us your old copy, we'll send you a new one for free. Or here's a coupon for a discount on the new copy since you can prove you bought the old copy. No, we're just going to repeat what worked for us. And when we do make the inevitable new copy of Spelljammer with the correct problem-free printing, we're going to make you pay full price for it. Yeah. Because that worked for us with Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, and that worked for us in 4th. That's worked for us 100 times before. No, it hasn't. So it'll work for us again. No, it won't. So yeah, change the art. And it's not going to stop there. It's because, I'm calling it now. Before the end of October, the space hippos are going to be accused of being fat shaming, and they're going to need to be replaced. The, mind flayers, well, they still eat brains, so they're going to need to be replaced. The Githyanki and the Githyanki, Gith and Gifh, or however they're pronounced, the two different Spelljammer astral races, both descended from slaves that used to be slaves for the Mind Flayer. They're problematic. They're going to be replaced, have to be replaced. I'm sure the fact that the space elves have different skin color, that's going to have to be changed. I can't think, I mean, without having a copy in my hand, but just off the top of my head, I'm going to just toss it out there that the space hippos are going to be found problematic. Mind Flayers are going to be found problematic. The other races that have suffered under the Mind Flayer are going to be found as problematic. You're probably going to find the design of the spaceships problematic. The fact that there's a race that inherently is good at guns, that's going to be found as problematic and pushing a right-wing agenda because, right-wingers like guns and we're the woke left Wizards of the Coast and we don't like guns. Plenty of, it's just whatever it is that we're Wizards of the Coast, we're supposed to follow, we're going to follow. So, I'm calling it now. By the end of October, there will be at least one, if not multiple more changes, making your physical copy either worth more or worth less, and making your digital copy probably a frickin' mess, because whenever time they go in there and perform the surgery and remove stuff and change stuff, it's not like we're talking to people who are doing it are genius expert computer programmers. No, they're getting they're getting first year med students to perform brain surgery. Okay, so the guys who are going in are changing this. These are just going to be schlubs in the editing department who have enough bare understanding of how the program works to attempt to copy and paste the new stuff into the old stuff. So the digital copy is now going to be damaged and messed up and going to need to be going and fixed. And plus, they've gone into each and every person's account and changed it. Well, that's kind of creepy. But also, really? Have you really gone into everybody's account and changed it so that if I logged on now and if I happen to have the digital copy, which I don't, it's going to be changed? Or do I have to buy a new digital copy? And it doesn't change the fact that the PDFs are out there and the artwork is out there. You know where I found this artwork that we're looking at here with the problematic art? Online. I just did Hadozee search, and there it was right there. So it's already out there. So Wizards of the Coast, you would have to go and find every instant of this artwork being put out into the multiverse and change it. And every PDF and article and signpost that is pointing to your problematic paragraphs, you'd have to now find a way to change that, which would only probably lead to further problems because whoever it is you're going to get to do this, if you do this, Wizards of the Coast, again, it's not going to be a brain surgeon. It's going to be some first-year intern with, basic editing skills and a search engine whose job it is to go in and try and change all this digital information out there. And they're going to frickin' mess up. You're getting a first-year med student to perform brain surgery. Yeah. So it's just the cascade of problems is just going to continue for you as your relevance diminishes. And in your constant attempt to stay relevant and stay informed and address these issues of inclusiveness, Wizards of the Coast, that, don't exist, you're not going to solve the problem. Putting a Band-Aid on a hole in a dam is not going to stop the water from coming through. Sending a first-year med student to perform brain surgery is not going to save the guy's life. Everything you have done is only making it worse for yourself, Wizards of the Coast. So I assure you that by going in and changing the art, it's going to be problematic and somebody's going to call you out on it. And you still have the risk of the other stuff that is in Spelljammer that might be considered problematic. Much less the stuff that is in 1D&D that is going to be accused of problematic. Much less the 1D&D survey. And then what's going to come out of the survey, because we've got round 2 of 1D&D coming out in October, and that's probably going to be problematic. So really, Wizards of the Coast, you should have just stopped while you were ahead like 3 years ago when you were still relevant. And D&D was still number 1. Because all you're doing now is destroying yourself. For nothing. Because you're never going to make these people happy. We've seen that. I mean, the sign language thing is a perfect example of how you cannot make them happy. They came and said, I want more inclusiveness. I want my disability recognized in Dungeons & Dragons. Sign language is a thing. So Wizards of the Coast went, sure, we'll put sign language in the 1D&D playtest and say, hey, if you want to spend the time, your character can learn sign language even if they aren't deaf. Something anybody can do in real life. You can go to a community college and take a sign language class if you want to learn sign language. And what was the response? How dare you, Wizards of the Coast, make sign language a language anybody can have? That's not inclusiveness, because now my character isn't special. And oh yeah, don't forget, we're going to talk about that Manic Pixie Dream Girl and her whole I never see myself represented in the game bullshit. We're saving that one. Oh yeah. So don't worry, gentle readers. Wizards of the Coast is taking care of you because they are sneaking into your D&D Beyond account and changing art and changing wording and changing history and changing reality. Not that, they can do anything about it because the stuff's already out there and there's still the physical copies. And the fact that I was just able to go online and without any problem and find this image. So yeah, it's an exercise in futility, but that's okay. Because Wizards of the Coast has got your back, friend, making sure you are not offended by this make-believe game about elves in space. So, speak out. What do you think about the latest nonsense from Wizards of the Coast and them changing art? Because, yeah, I find that offensive that they did that. I'm more offended by the fact that they went in and changed it than I am about the art itself. There's nothing offensive about this art. Or space monkeys in general. Because space monkeys don't exist. By the way, I'm drinking a Coke. Support me, Coca-Cola. I need a sponsor, and I will sell out. I'm the OG GM. Let me know what you're thinking about this. Till next time, stay hydrated. It's going to be another hot one here in Southern California and across the world. And as always, get off my spaceship, you damn elves with your damn sticks.